We'll be moving straight into the panel discussion. So I would like to invite Dr. Ramji, who will be chairing this session, to please come on stage. And the panel discussion will be followed by the closing ceremony. So I do request everyone to stay in the auditorium.
Session, especially for the early career researchers that we have today, of course from the 4 days, not only here but outside this auditorium. Maybe some of them may be watching from somewhere. It's to support what kind of grants that we have, how we can actually kind of partner with some industries, and how we can establish academic as well as industrial partnerships, you being the researcher or you being the industrial person, or you may be someone else who may be bridging between these organizations. So again, to go global, and what kind of international exposure that we'll be having. So a lot of questions that early career people, before they jump into a kind of set path for next 5 to 10 years as an academician or as a corporate employee, or kind of bridging between these two entities as an enabler or kind of supporting system to both of these. So let's quickly start the speakers today that we have. I'll start with Subhadra, of course. You all heard of her fantastic lecture stating several opportunities in this area, as well as her own research, how she kind of translated her career towards this side. So she is currently CEO of Transcell Biologics, and also theme of the biotech company is, as she explained, continuous discovery and process development to deliver unique stem cell based solutions for treating chronic and debilitating diseases. Dr. Dravida leads the team and collaboration responsible for discovering druggable formulations across therapeutic areas and human surrogate in vitro cell tissue microphysiological platforms for safety and efficacy. Please try to understand some of the taglines of these particular speakers. They're very unique and focused on those particular areas, which are very rare to have. Biochemistry, stem cell biology, these may be common jargons, but these kind of safety, efficacy, and also alternate models and unique models maybe. I think please try to follow these words. And yes, of course, she is part of biobanking and other product development and entrepreneurship. Of course, she already gave some basic experience that she shared. And next I'm going to introduce Mani, Dr. Subramaniam Mani. Of course, he's chairing several sessions, and also just before this panel discussion, he kind of coordinated a wonderful line of speakers. So he's the CEO of Reagene, of course, pharma scientist and executive with nearly 3 decades of leadership globally, and PhD from Memorial University of Newfoundland, and worked previously as a postdoc in University of Colorado, and specialist scientist again, please listen. He worked thereafter in UC Berkeley, industrial experience focused on new drug discovery and development with expertise in DMPK, bioanalytical and clinical pharmacology and toxicology. Thanks, Dr. Mani, for being here. And we have academic scientists who are working in the translational areas. 2 of them I'm going to introduce now. Dr. Indumathi, being product of CCMB, she is now currently a research scientist at Center for Ocular Regeneration at LV Prasad Eye Institute. Her research focuses on basic and translational research efforts towards addressing the problems of retinal and corneal diseases using different sources of adult and pluripotent stem cells. In 2016, she was awarded the B.M. Birla Science Prize for Biology for her contributions in the area of stem cell research, and of course, several collaborative projects that you are leading with institutions like CCMB and others. Now, Dr. Subha Narayan Rath, physician come researcher. We have rarely doctors who became researchers and have, their particular insights, being a doctor into this biomedical engineering or biomedical science is a much added value to all of us. So Subha currently is a professor at the Department of Biomedical Engineering at IIT Hyderabad. His PhD from National University of Singapore, and his research group works with mesenchymal stem cells and cancer-derived stem cells and tries to understand their interactions and differentiation potential with respect to chemical forces from biomaterials and mechanical forces from bioreactors. I think very unique area. They also use 3D bioprinting technology to understand the mechanisms of regenerative potentials and in vitro disease models for osteochondral tissues and angiogenic tissues. Slightly of my postdoc background into tissue engineering. Thank you. And now Dr. Suresh Poosala, a very unique scientist that I am going to introduce now, is a founder and president of OncoSeq Bio. He has 2 decades of experience in drug discovery, preclinical leadership, and also lab animal programs, several programs. His forte majorly into kind of how we can develop alternate models for clinical trials, for example. And he is part of several national and international ethical committees where he can contribute such a way that he can bring these models into effective alternative systems. So thanks, Dr. Suresh, for being here. And we have our another speaker, Dr. Arumugham, Raghunathan. He is currently Senior Director, Business Development. And I think, most of the eastern half, probably more than eastern half of the US with a particular company called Inspero, right? Inspero, the global leaders in the 3D culture platform and services. So his PhD basically from University of Hyderabad, postdoc from Yale University. Yeah, of course, one advantage of Suresh, Subhadra and Ragoo and all, they engage constantly with the startups as well, of course, money being the startup. So, and also STEM peers, how many of you know STEM peers? At least, yeah, maybe half a dozen or more than that. Yeah, great. So Ragoo is part of, STEM peers is more than 20,000 member group, maybe even more now. So how someone can build their careers and how someone can actually share their knowledge in these peer groups, I think better be part of STEM peers. So let's start with the small discussion. I would like to go one after the other, maybe in 2 minutes or so, 2.5 minutes. Just tell about if I missed something about yourself and how we can actually, how you being kind of in this ecosystem, how you established a kind of partnership with other peers to grow in your career. Just tell about you in that line, briefly introducing by yourself, because I covered your academic background or something else, but I missed something. So maybe Suresh, can you please?
Yeah, Ramji, thank you very much. I think you introduced me very well. Nothing more to add to that. The fact that I moved out of industry working for 10 years at Bristol Myers Squibb and then also at NIH as a senior director and a chief of comparative medicine. So after holding those positions, I felt a need for contributing to India, number one. Number two is there are unmet medical needs in India that motivated me to come back to India. And more importantly, I had funds, personal funds, luckily for me living in US for 25 years. I could generate some revenue for myself and then save it and wanted to use it back for science rather than family. So those are the three motivation factors and at least the results that I had to begin with. But when I did come here, there are three major challenges in India. One is the audience that you are responding to, that talking to doctors, physicians, you said there's a rarity of physicians who are scientists in India. Not many are there. In US, a lot of them are there. Number two, talking to venture capitalists in India, convincing them to invest in drug discovery. or biological research, for instance, is quite a challenge. There are no funding organizations, at least not in 2018. Maybe there are some now. Those are two challenges. And the third one is the academic industry collaborations. People always look for postdocs and faculties, and there is no hunger for students to come and start a startup. And those are the three missing links, and that's why I kind of invested my time and effort into building the ecosystem rather than just my startup. So I started 3R Advances conference program, international. Now it is very international, global. So that way I could attract a lot of students to come and imbibe the knowledge that I had gained and get stimulated by what they can do. And number two, apart from that ecosystem, I tried contributing to the development of the models itself. So I'm a veterinarian, so I brought in advanced animal models in India, healthy, genetically proven, and I have good friends who started those businesses based on my advice, doing very successfully. So we have all the good vendors of animal models in India right now. And then when I talked about that, my ethics about animal treatment is to reduce, refine, and replace, and that motivated me for alternatives to models. Now I am at a point where last 4 years, point where I am applying these models to discovering new therapeutics, and started my next startup called Acasta, where we actually produce medicines for regenerative medicine, for osteoarthritis and a couple of others. So this is a journey that I think it starts with a confidence, boldness, and willingness to take the risk, and then hiring the right kind of people. And in me, I think I have the talent of hiring people because of working with BMS. I had 400 scientists in Bangalore, which is now Syngene partnership. And then coming here, I quickly located Bharadwaj, for instance, sitting in the audience. Excellent communicator, good PhD, hunger for doing something different other than postdocs. So identifying the talent, nurturing them to be part of you or be with you is very, very important for success. So I would say people, money, of course, funding people, and the vision to start up and believe in what you want to do. Those are the success stories, at least, and I am not yet successful completely, but I aspire to be. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Suresh. And now, Ragoo, please.
Cool. So tough to follow such a good speaker. Suresh talks about alternative models for research and stuff. As you know, my career path is different. So I talk a lot about alternative career paths, right? So most of you coming from academic institutions aspire to go back and become postdocs or faculty and professors. Some of you want to go into industry and become research scientists and eventually whatever. There are so many other alternate paths, right? So there's so many alternate careers. I want you to look at them also with an open eye, with an open mind, because there's not just two careers. Remember us growing up when we were kids, parents want us to be either engineers or doctors. And some of us are none now. We are different kind of doctors going towards PhD. Similarly, there's so many career options out there. I'm not going to sit and list all of them there. I'm one of the products. I started with the PhD postdoc, scientist, and then got into sales and business development. I love my career. I've been doing that for 20 years. And there's so many pros and cons to it. Cons are a little less, but I'll be happy to talk to you about that. So with that, I'll just leave you sitting, thinking about an open mind. What else can I do? I'll be happy to talk to you about it. As Ramji mentioned, thanks for the introduction. I'm on the STEM Peers board of directors, and I'm available, accessible to everybody on Facebook, LinkedIn, Messenger, any means of communication, including LinkedIn. And I'll be happy to career advise, mentor, suggest options, right? Thank you. With that, I'll.
Thank you so much, Ragoo. And Indumathi. Talk to Indumathi.
Okay, hello everyone. Rather than talking about myself, I would rather say that I'm here to represent those of you who are doing hardcore basic research, but interested in doing some translational work, interested to address or find solutions for current problems which the clinicians are facing. If you have the interest and energy and risk-taking ability to develop something that can be clinically translated, I think I am here to address or take up any questions related to that. So as a basic scientist, when I started, I took up this opportunity. I was neither, I'm in an eye field, I was neither an eye researcher to begin with, nor a stem cell researcher to begin with, but I took up a job which asked, which wanted me to develop something for retinal disease. So that's a broad question that is put forward in front of me, and all I had is the technique that I have learned as a cell biologist and molecular biologist. I focused it for the problem on hand and tried to develop something that will be meaningful, not only to address, to understand the basic science behind the disease, and also see if we can develop something for therapeutics. So that's where, that's my background. I'll be happy to take any of your concerns and questions related to, if you're really interested to jump into this area.
Thank you, Dr. Indumathi. Now, Mani. In the past 3 days you covered many, but today something else.
Yeah, I mean, this is to address the future of India, in students and postdocs who are hungry to do something and deliver to India, right? And I don't, exactly like Dr. Indumathi said, I don't have to talk about myself. You can go and Google me up, you'll know. What I'm trying to do here is that, I mean, I came back to India.
Mic a bit closer.
Yeah, okay. So the idea of entrepreneurship is not an easy journey, to tell you the truth. The first thing is in India that we don't do clinical research. Basically, we don't have any drug development. Okay. That's where you need billions of dollars. Right? I mean, if $2.5 billion is spent on a drug discovery program to get one molecule into the market, 60% of the budget goes into the clinical research. Your drug discovery is only small money. And I ask a lot of people, and a lot of people, everybody is saying, I want to do drug discovery. The question is that we don't have mentorship yet. In Indian schools are offering what is actually a drug discovery process. It's not just screening compounds. A compound has to be marketed. That is drug discovery, right? A novel target taking into the market. So this is where I'm trying to make a difference. We are developing models for efficacy because animal models are not translating into the clinical efficacy. That's the first and foremost, that we need efficacy models in human 3D models that we're building. And next thing, as I said, we are trying to do PBPK modeling. It's impossible to do a multi-dose 3-month toxicology study in a 3D model. So we need to come up with innovative, creative ways of translating the data to be able to predict what happens if you dose an animal for 3 months or dose a human for 3 months, right? So those are the things we are looking at and trying to translate it. As I said, I'm available for the questions. I mean, you guys may have a lot of questions. You can ask us here or outside or write to us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Subhadra.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yes, not much about my Transel story, but I sincerely believe that, like, entrepreneurship for me has been a logical extension of my personality, because all through while I have been a researcher, I was always wanting to connect the dots with the translation and application. So I believe that, like, your question should be strong, and your question can be strong only, if your understanding is right, and of course your experience, and then the very thought process as well, like, should match with all, like, what you want to kind of go through and what you want to do. So it has been very eventful for me, in building this group named Transcell, and across, like, across the journey, I always wanted to kind of, collaborate, and then I believed sincerely in collaborating and co-opting, like, the journey. So that's very important, like, for an entrepreneur, like, to go to the level where you want to be. So again, like, another thing is, it's not just, at least for our kind of domain, we are not into IT, in life sciences, and then, like, the biotech field, you can't build a company based on just an idea. you have to have substantial data supporting that, idea. Only then, you can take it to the next level. And as he said, and of course Suresh and Mani said, attracting funding is a challenge, not just in India, I think. So you should be also willing to put your skin deep into the game. Only then you can attract even collaborators or investors in your journey. Yeah. So these are some lessons that are very important. It's not just kind of randomly wanting to become an entrepreneur because you will be left high and dry, somewhere in between. Unless you have this passion to find your own way. There is no way ahead. It's just that you have to find your own way. That's it.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Subha, please.
Hello. What should I say? Something about me?
Yeah.
I
So-
lost the question all the time.
I introduced all of you, but anything that is special message where
Okay.
some of the exciting things in your life in 2 minutes time.
Okay. Anyway, I think my life is an open book anyway, so.
I know that.
But yeah, just to tell you. So what happened, I remember in my German class in Germany, so one time we were reading in German book about a beggar. So that time our German teacher, our Deutschlehrerin, she told me to learn about beggar, you have to go and talk to a beggar actually. She told to everybody. The next day actually I went to a beggar wearing whatever bad dress or something. I sat beside that and asked actually, why do you beg? Why there is a dog beside you? How much money you are getting? But the one thing I know, first of all, I am very inquisitive in nature. And I try to learn or listen from everybody. And I think I have bothered you, all of you, actually asking a lot of questions about you or what you are doing or something. But that helps a lot, actually. In science, many times we have to go to the problem, to the base or problem level, and try to see what are the possible solutions to that. Okay. So many times we think about the problem most of the time without bringing the possible solutions before go forward pathway. Okay, so that's what I can say about me.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yeah.
So, thank you very much for a brief intro or kind of, what made you to be here today in this auditorium. The audience, maybe 60-70% of the audience, they may be excited to hear about what kind of early career options and alternative career that they can choose. But actually the mandate of this particular panel also covers 2 to 3 important factors of, as I mentioned to you already, about the funding and the global connects at the same time. International funding, for example, and also collaboration opportunities. Maybe I can touch upon asking them about switching from academia to industry. How many of you are really interested? Just raise your hands. How many? Yeah, so about dozen of the people, right? So just asking Suresh, can you please, funding we can go later anyway, because the current scenario, at least we are okay with funding. But how to tap funding is a challenge, as you mentioned. But tell about switching from academics to industry, and what are the kind of things that one person can actually evaluate himself or herself to be into the academy. That's one question. Again, second thing is that how to actually approach to the right partner, industrial partner for academic collaboration. Maybe 2-3 of you can actually answer this. Maybe Suresh, you can start.
I think I faced both the situations. One thing was I tried a faculty position and I was a faculty member in a medical school in US. That didn't excite me after 4 years because I was teaching the same subject to the same people who are going to become doctors, right? So I decided that, okay, I should be better than this in some other field. So at that time I had a collaboration partner, happens to be St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, which was doing exceptionally good research and treatment, therapeutics for cancer, childhood cancers. So that excited me. And then I said I wanted to try it. And the only reason why I went to St. Jude's was the Nobel laureate there, Peter Doherty was a veterinarian, and I'm a veterinarian. So I see some commonality, and he was an excellent researcher, won the Nobel Prize. So I said, can I work with you for 2 years? So that gave me an option, a window for me to assess myself as a researcher. But the bottom line is, he told me I'm a better teacher than a researcher, because I could never meet his expectations. Because when you choose a mentor of very, very high standard, you fall short of everything that you have. So choose the right mentor is a very anomaly in this case. But I got motivated. So he was my first partner, actually. He said, you are not a good researcher, you are a better teacher, but if you want to try research, try it on your own and try to collaborate, don't do it on your own. So try to collaborate. That was the first lesson. So I found a collaborator far to the East Coast in the University of Maryland. Briefly collaborated and quickly figured out that I wanted to address a different problem and they want to address a different problem. So you need to be coherent, aligned with these are the mistakes I'm talking about. And then finally I said, I'll work for somebody. So I made that switch because academics was not paying me enough. Honestly, that's the answer. And I wanted to switch to industry because the salaries were big and I could afford to have a family in USA as a single money earner. So decided to move to the industry and contributed immensely to BMS, came back to India. But what happened during the transition was I had a molecule in mind, I had a platform in mind for alternatives, and BMS was not interested in both of those things that I had in my mind. So they said, you have an option to leave and start your company, or you can stay and work with us. So I had to make that risky, bold decision to move back to India. So 3 lessons for me. Academic to industry transition, it depends on alignment with the partner that you find, firmly believing what your idea is. Is it a therapeutic? Yes. Is it a molecule? Is it a platform like steroids, MPS? So I picked 3 of those ideas and came here. And the third challenge that you mentioned is when you make this switch, what is the challenge that you face? The challenge that I face immediately is you are not earning any money. You're on your own. That is the biggest challenge. And I'm a scientist. I'm not an accountant. That is my second biggest challenge. To keep track of money, explain how you are spending was my biggest challenges. To be frank, I think those are the weaknesses that we need to recognize as a scientist. Don't jump into startups without having some basic understanding of commerce and accounting. I would say that. That I picked up later, and I had to depend on Bharadwaj to do that for me. And we both struggle, and I'm still struggling to learn that. So these are the challenges that I faced. Science itself was a not challenge, like Subhadra said. If you believe that your idea is strong, you have great degrees, great PhDs, great schools, and good experience. So now you believe that you have the experience, you have the idea, but you don't have money and you're not earning. So how long can you push? So you have to raise funds. So you need to have the tactics to talk to the people, present the idea, successfully raise funds for one of my company, but still a long way to go. So these are the challenges. We are weak. As scientists, we are weak in certain things. We are strong in an idea, and we are way too passionate about our idea and forget the fact that there is a market that we need to address. So these are the challenges.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Raghu, you would like to?
Yeah, I'd like to add one thing. You talked about transitioning from academics and then straight starting a company. So maybe there's an intermediate step there as well for scientists, aspiring scientists. So you can postdoc for a few years and join a industry, a company doing research, right? That's another way to find out what you like, what you're passionate about, right? So academic style of research is very different from industrial style of research. One thing definitely is changing your attitude, your mental mindset itself needs to change. A lot of times when I was an academic researcher, you are looking only out for yourself. You want your paper to come out, you want your results to work. As you're going into industry, you're becoming more and more of a team player. You're working together, you're sharing protocols, you're making things work together. That mindset, I think you should be really, really ready to adapt, right? And then once you go there, if you go into a small industry versus a large industry, again, you have 2 different pros and cons there. I would think if you in the future want to start your own company, it's very beneficial to go into a small company because you get to see all the different moving parts within the company. You see the person at the front door all the way to the CEO, CSO, what they're doing on a regular basis. So you get exposed to all of these things. And one day when you want to start your company, you know what they went through, you get flashbacks of that, right? So you'll be better prepared to it. I would suggest that path definitely would be a faster, better, you'll be a stronger candidate if you want to start your company. But if you have some good support like entrepreneurs already out there, you find the right partner like Suresh mentioned, jump to it straight. Don't waste time. Somebody else's path should not be your path, right? You make your own path and go for it. Be the pioneer.
Thank you so much, Raghu. And anyone like to add?
Yeah, so I'll just add to what Raghu has just said. So there is a transition period before you become from a basic scientist to actually an entrepreneurship thought process. Is your translational interest and the idea to convert your idea, basic research idea, into a product development per se, where you will be investing your time in testing your model, developing your model. You're still a basic scientist looking at preclinical development to say, but then while you're doing that, it is important to orient what is expected out of it at the end. How are you going to translate this idea into a viable product is something that you have to start looking at and understand while you're preparing yourself for the entrepreneurship. So that's something that I would want to tell all of you.
Thank you so much. Good points by Suresh and all others. Of course, there may be so many questions regarding how I can actually plan my career. Is there a easiest way to actually enter into this industrial streamline or maybe entrepreneurial streamline, or which is the best alternative career than a traditional academic system? Today we are all actually doing fantastic research, but somewhere down the line we think that how I can go forward without the support of funding or the proper supporting partnership by industry. So you covered a couple of points on the industrial collaboration, and you rightly mentioned on those things, but regarding, sorry?
I just have a question.
Questions now you want to take from this? Yeah, please go ahead.
So we have some questions from the group. Can you hear me? Yeah. We have some particular questions from the students. Some of them are not here, so I'm going to read out a few.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, I'm going to read out a few of the questions that we received in the group, because many of them have excitedly sent them to us. Is there a single organization equivalent of US's FDA in India, or are there multiple which include ICMR, FSSAI, etc.?
What is the question? What is the question? Is this FDA in US? Are there multiple organizations?
Kasturi, I can take the questions.
Okay.
Actually, I thought of taking the questions maybe after about 5-10 minutes later.
No problem.
By touching upon a couple of things. So, people have different ways of approaching funding locally, whether it's a basic research funding or translational funding, maybe innovation grants you can say, or international grants or collaboration grants, whatever. India, I can proudly say that today we have funding at different levels of, starting from basic research to then probably the right idea, then to go to the product or process. But yes, some gaps we identified, you all know, but probably, for example, something to start, idea to proof of concept we have, but again small validations and all, but large validations and regulatory, big gap. A lot of, at least $500,000 to $1 million fund, we need to get it from the government support, what I mean to say, because especially in the life sciences, bringing confidence to these areas is very difficult. So, being in those kind of research, translational research works, and as well as innovation areas that you guys are working, maybe 1 or 2 examples of, what really helped you to tap into those grants, and what kind of approaches you may actually direct them so that they can actually get those national as well as international. Maybe Subhadra, with your experience, any grants or funding from India or abroad?
No, not grants. I am not a recipient of any, grants from India.
You didn't approach, or you didn't try, or you?
To be honest, I never believed in,
Okay.
getting the government funds. Pardon me? You are not a recipient of grants, you are a recipient of awards. Yeah, because I actually had some very not great experience handling the agencies. But yes, I have been lucky to attract some angel investment.
Okay.
In fact, lucky because they're real angels, at least so far, but anytime they can turn out to be devils. If I am not performing, I mean, they're angels as long as, I am delivering what
Yes.
I have promised. So, you have to deliver. I mean, if you are asking somebody, for some funds, it has to be, your pitch needs to be compelling, and the investment should yield whatever is the results. I mean, sometimes it could be return on the investment in the form of revenues or in the form of a particular product developed.
Yes.
That definitely should have some commercial appeal. Yeah. So that's important.
Yes.
If you are asking somebody for some support,
Outcome oriented.
yes, I mean, you also have to present what is it that you're giving it back.
Yes.
Nobody would fund just research,
Yes.
unless that research yields. Of course, research is good. I mean, whether it is basic research or translational research, even most of the industrial research and then all the startups and all also, I mean, would have to do whatever is their product-based, research activity. So there has to be clarity, what you are asking and then what do you want to deliver. So as long as you have that clarity, I think you're good with attracting
Great.
the interest as well as the
Aligning-
confidence. Yeah.
Aligning your plans with the mandate of the grants or
True.
opportunity that's available.
True. Yeah.
Thank you. Suresh, you want to comment on
Yeah.
quickly?
I mean, luckily for us, we were able to write some grants and succeeded in getting those grants, small grants, like 50 lakhs to 1 crore. One was a BIDAC, which Ramji is an expert to talk about. So a lot of options available, opportunities available for young investigators, especially up to the proof of concept for a small scale funding. But you should also look beyond the government. You should also approach friends and family who are in a similar field. Like if, for instance, your uncle is a doctor who understands health science, maybe he is willing to invest 10 lakhs, not 50, right? So that's the first line of opportunity. But if you don't want to have family involved, which is also a good idea, is to approach international, where you can write US grants or European grants, and there are so many available, especially from the university. And the third option I looked at is I invested into reagents. So there are probably friends around who like what you are doing and you want to invest. So these are the opportunities available. Like Subhadra said, the bigger opportunity is to approach large, deep-pocketed angel investors or venture capitalists. And also be very active in science and startup groups around the city and in the country. And continuously bounce your idea, because somebody might be getting excited and say, I want to test your idea. So like that, I have helped a few people, like small things, just to prove their concept, like 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, and then they say, okay, I'm dropping this idea. It's a very good thing to do before he or she wastes 2 or 3 years and then realize this is a bad idea. So I think there are opportunities all around from the government, international, angel investors, venture capitalists, friends and family. So you have to prefer your choices based on how much money you need.
Wonderful. Thank you. You have international? Okay. Thank you so much. I mean, I want to quickly touch upon the grants. So their experience really matter. Globalization, in the sense, some of the researchers like you would like to approach international partnerships, not only for the money, but for collaborative research. So in that sense, of course, today we are there globally connected, and EMBO is one good platform that we are representing in this particular hall. But however, some of the young researchers, I feel, they may not be able to actually kind of reach into the right parties to collaborate. I mean, I don't know whether it's their approach or some kind of gaps, because when we are talking to them, they may say that, I'm sorry, can you please help us connecting to the right people. Of course, we are there to help, but otherwise, any one of you can actually, or one of you or couple of you can tell how to establish these global connections. Because see, if any country to excel well, you need to establish such kind of partnerships globally to address such problems that we discussed quickly. So maybe money with your international exposure.
You know, actually, all Indian companies depend on Western service, providing services to the Western companies. The reason I'm saying is that, yeah, you have API companies, right? All these generic who produce the bulk drugs, they sell it to the America, not to India, right? Whatever is remaining is that they'll sell it here, but they don't make profits here. They make profits in the US or Europe or Africa or somewhere else. So we are dependent on West to sell our product, whether it's a service or innovation or anything else. So with that in mind, if you only look for investors in India, the investor is not seeing the value for his return because, hey, this is no value for me in India, right? I mean, this guy is going to take the product to US and sell it there or somewhere else. So the investors are not convinced they should be investing in innovative research or even a service research. This is the problem. So when I started the company, of course, we did apply for some BIRAC grants. We had additional problems, not just what Suresh said. BIRAC grant said, you're a US citizen, why should you need an Indian grant? Well, that's a different issue that I had to fight with. The same thing with Uday also. We both are US citizens, started a company in India, right? So there are other problems. I agree with them. I mean, yeah, why should I not get funds? So I contacted about 5 or 6 friends of mine who knows me very well, who knows my track record. I said, can you invest 50 lakhs? Boom, 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 6 people invested 3 crores total. So that is how you bring the money in. And he came in, what are you doing? I'm doing alternatives to animals. Oh, wow. Because he was also trained in the US, he sees the value for my research. If I went to BIRAC grant or Karnataka Elevate grant and I presented my proposal that I want to do alternatives to animal research, they all laughed at me. What is this? Really, because they didn't understand the value of the proposal. So you need to go to the people who understand the value of the proposal, not anybody else who can give you the money. You go to a real estate agent, he has crores and crores of money. You can say, give me 5 crores. He may invest, but every day he'll be on your back. Where's my return? So you have to ask him, no, research will take 10 years to realize the money and he's not going to be interested in it. So you find the opportunities where people understand the like-mindedness and only approach them to get the money for your funding. Don't get money from somebody who's going to ask you tomorrow to return the money. Okay? That's not going to be valuable for your research.
Thank you. Thanks. Maybe I think Subha, quickly, if you can tell about your international, I mean, because both of you are from kind of typical academicians, but how did you start any grant or collaboration? International.
Yeah. So, though I don't have yet any international grants, I have a lot of international collaborations. And as a IIT faculty, I can see a lot of international universities are running after us. So, let me come to the, again, basic thing. Let it be any research collaboration or a topic of a student's thesis topic or any kind of work we do together. I personally think there are 4 M are involved in that. So among them, they are actually, I consider this as money, which is grants, minutes, how much time you can afford, manpower, who is going to do what part of that, and materials or the components of any grants. So what I found now currently, many of the other country people, they are coming to, especially I know in IIT, to get the manpower because they know our manpower is very well trained and that is one of the best resources in India. Okay, so that part I can proudly say. However, I know in India the ecosystem is not that friendly yet for this startup system maybe, but everybody is trying I think our job is to suggest at proper places what could be done or changed where the ecosystem is good, because especially in the biomedical industry, I know from my hospital doctors actually, we are more of a consumer than producers. So we consume everything coming, taking from abroad, and actually the producing part is very less. And all abroad people know the Indian market is a huge and they are receptive, so they are actually taking our manpower maybe, but whatever they produce, and they actually think Indian market is good. So that's why in my international relationship I can say our manpower is highly valued, and just we have to change the other part.
Ramji, can I add a little bit?
Yeah, please, please.
Just I'll add one thing.
Yeah, please, please.
Yeah. No, when I see people who want to start the company, they think they're powerful. Oh, I'm the CEO of the company. I can manage everything. I'm the most powerful guy. No, don't think that way. Investors are the most powerful guys. Okay? It's always the case. So a lot of people say, no, I don't want any investors. I'll put my 1 crore money. I'll be the 100% owner. You're not getting anywhere. Dilute, bring another 9 people who can put 1 crore each and dilute you to 10%. Because you are going to make more difference with a 10% valuation of your own equity rather than having 100% of your own equity, because you're not going to get anywhere. That 1 crore value remain 1 crore even after 10 years. This 10 crore value will become 500 crore value in 10 years. That's the way you all should operate. I'm most powerful, being a CEO doesn't work that way. Okay?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I think one thing that's getting lost here is, how do you get all of that? You're talking, go to your friends, go to people, get 10 people to invest money. I think the important part is networking. Don't forget networking. Be nice to people. It could be your friends, family, strangers, people. Did you notice money hitting up that guy for UROC membership? Can I be part of the consortium there? So you connect with people, make sure you can relate to them, they understand your cause, your passion, your direction, and they should relate to you. That's when they're going to invest in you.
Exactly.
So if you had 10 people giving you 1 crore each, they believed in you, you built that relationship, right?
Exactly.
So first thing I tell people is keep networking anytime.
Thank you so much. I think
And probably identify complementary expertise, right? So you don't have to be a master of everything. So you identify people who can enhance your skill and then collaborate, be it for academic research or for your startup collaborations. So collaborative culture is really very poor in the country, but then now programs are insisting on multi-institutional projects, and we are having government funding agencies which promote that. I think the key is identify the right partner for who can help you in providing the solution that you want to address. Okay, so that's very key, and you have to have a clear idea about who is going to do what. And if you can convince a collaborator that together as a team you can deliver what you're promising, I'm sure you'll be able to bag whatever you're asking for.
Thank you so much, Dr. Indumathi. So, several things to be discussed, but yes, 2 things. The session itself is networking session actually, so networking is the right thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, absolutely. So, I didn't introduce myself actually, right? Some of you may be knowing. I'm here in this auditorium, I'm talking on these things and articulating the things with these people. But I did my PhD in this particular organization, IICT, and postdoc into biosensors and tissue engineering, but I paused my science today. But 2012 I stopped it. How I came to this line, because some of you may be understanding what are the additional feathers that we can add to our cap. That's what I discussed with some of the people in the audience that day at the dinner time. I mean, applying to academic jobs as a faculty or a scientist, it's not that easy. You can't get. So that's where people look for alternative opportunities and all. I mean, as I couldn't get a job that time, then one job I got that is totally out of my mind. I mean, I can't even think of something like a management job. I came back to India and opted it, because whatever the first opportunity is the best opportunity. Just accept it, struggle for it, and do well. And that time it got clicked to my mind, being a scientist, working in the management, why can't you learn some management skills? And I kind of did some correspondence course, some university in India, and that added some more kind of idea to my career. Then I worked for grants in another organization. So I learned grants, and some of the startups here, we supported them. And after that, what? I'm still hungry to learn about the incubation, and I joined CCMB incubator to build it along with Dr. Madhu and all. So I mean, meanwhile, how I came back to India, it's not that easy to get that project management job also. There they require PhD with patents law degree. I did my PG diploma long back while I'm doing PhD. That really helped me to come back to India. Can you just believe this? So the message is, please try to, the words from you I'm just taking, multi-diverse skills or complementary skills by yourself or your collaborators. Definitely there is a scope to succeed, and please have that networking, because that only helped me to be in this auditorium to speak with other people. Thank you so much. And I have a few questions before we close from some of the students that they asked. Other than your scientific skills or industrial collaborators, what are the, who are the other stakeholders they can actually help you to take your research to the advanced level? So maybe he himself or she herself mentioned policymakers required, science communicators required, regulators, who else? So
I'll answer that. It's the team that makes the difference. You may be a scientist, the world's greatest scientist. Business is different. In such a case, you need a lot of different things you need to look at. For example, just to look at our own company, right? We have 6 or 7 people who are on the board have come with multi-diverse expertise. And you need to look for people who are successful to put on your board. This is very critical. When somebody is looking at your website, he's looking at who are the board people in this company. And those board people have to be having credentials that are really top-notch credentials. And this is very critical because you're not running the company. And as a CEO, you are actually bringing the network, and those network of the connections are actually helping you to grow your company. So somebody says that, okay, I have that particular person who is well established and he's done 25 years of research. Immediately the eyeballs go up. Oh, okay, I need to work with this company. So things like that will make a lot of difference. It's not just your name. I must have 30 years of experience in pharma industry. Nobody cares for it. So bring the people into your team who have expertise.
Thank you. So basically once you are trying to address scientific approaches that can be, productizing something, many other stakeholders, regulatory agencies, IP, legalities, even the company, as Suresh mentioned about the commerce, importance of commerce and other things, because you have to plan your budgetary things and all. So I think that's what. The second question is, any suggestions for early career researchers in pursuing career paths, roles, than being a scientist? I think we discussed slightly on that. And
Go ahead.
So I have a question regarding that. So besides IITs, most of the higher education institutions in our countries are state universities. And the scenario of state universities are very different from that of IITs with regarding the exposure and the skill set what the students attain once they are passing out from their masters or even the PhDs. So since we're talking about early career researchers as academicians and the industry people, how would you address the difference or the gap which is there between the people or the students coming out from the state universities, because they are the majority of population here? So that is what I wanted to ask regarding the career switch or change in the career or even continuation in the academics.
Tips and even have
Right, yeah,
volunteer
exactly,
jobs,
yeah.
right?
That's one of the things that you need to do is, the first thing is that nobody knows which idea works in life, right? First thing is you need to do research on the idea that you have. I probably looked at 20, 30 different ideas I had in my mind before I actually wanted to start a company. One was molecular diagnostics. I went to the hospitals and talked to the doctors. Will you take my samples and give me patient samples to do the molecular diagnostics? Everybody threw me out of their offices. So I realized that molecular diagnostics was not my cup of tea that I can start a company in. Right? Like that, I was actually going to start an animal toxicology company. And in 2007, somebody promised me 50 crores to start the company in India. But I came to India, I realized that, these things are not going to work for you unless you research the idea and come up with. I probably did, before I started the alternatives to animal, I researched about 50 years of research. 50 years of research, going to the PubMed literature and all the other literature, my experience in pharma industry. That is how I landed on the alternatives to animals of research. Yes. Now you can see them, MPS symposium, all the world are going around doing publicizing.
Dr. Indumathi.
If I understand your question correctly, so you are asking there is a gap in awareness among state universities versus national institutes, right? So the problem here is both ways. So the institute should conduct awareness programs or the workshops, which the government are funding to some extent, but they should actively take it up and expose their students to all these programs. And other aspect is the other way around. Students themselves have to really explore possibilities as to what are the training programs that are available. You first identify your area of interest, and is there any workshop or the training programs that are being conducted by different institutes? Can I tap it? Can I apply for these programs and equip myself for my next step? So it's either way. So the universities also have to take an active role in this. At the same time, as individuals who are interested and we are focused on our own career development, should be aware of all of this and look for opportunities. I think it's either way, and government should also invest more on conducting such workshops and training programs at the university level to strengthen our research base, to say.
Thank you. See, basically, whether government or any other programs are there, workshop from the university side, but the person need to be enthusiastic and motivated herself or himself to look for such kind of engagements with industries or startups to work for some time. That's the exposure they will get. We provide a lot of exposure to several university-based students, being the interns even at the BSc level and MSc level. Some of them, they are working in our incubator as well. I think, no one is going to stop you, just go, despite of its being a state university or IITs or NITs or whatever. And one question is there a single organization equivalent to US FDA?
DCGI.
Yeah, DCGI, that's what we can say. Of course, ICMR, FSSAI, they all also work in different sectors, but yes, we have DCGI. I mean, that's the question that what Kasturi is mentioning. And how would we choose or decide the right position or job in case of having more than one of his? He or she is lucky to have such options, but yes, depending on your package, passion, and of course, package and the perks. Perks in the sense not money again, not only money again, your flexibility of office hours or maybe incentives that they are giving other than money. So I think I can't say much, but you can meet us so that we can help you to pick the best one if you have those many offers. And what
two things: what you want to do and what you want for your life. There are two things, two decisions that helps you in making your career choice.
Absolutely. What would be the requirement to start the career as an early researcher? I mean, that's again.
Inquisitive mind.
Yes, that inquisitiveness towards, doing something in that particular core research or basic research, or what is that you want to address. Again, problem that you mentioned, that's very important. And I think the questions are done.
Yeah.
One question is there. Yeah, please.
has been faced by a couple of our seniors as well. So they have a really good startup idea. The investors agree, everyone agree. But when you do such deep science projects, or when you're starting something with very deep science potential, the product phase is somewhere 10 years down the line or 8 years down the line. So for an early PhD person who has just come out of his or her PhD, the incubator doesn't essentially support for the founder's salary. So how he or she supposed to support themselves over this period of time without killing their passion? And, I've had seniors who had left all of this and just gone for a postdoc. Perhaps that is two missed opportunities for a really good product, but they themselves have looked out for themselves. Can't blame them as well.
So you should never kill the idea. Just because you don't have money or you cannot sustain yourself, you should find a partner who has money. So you have various forums where you can go and present your idea. That your idea is too good because you are 10 years ahead, right? And then nobody is understanding your idea right now because we are not at that point where there isn't. So a lot of times the ideas fail, but that's called vision. So you have the vision that other people are missing. So to enable you to realize that vision 10 years down the road, which you don't want to wait because you want to earn money and also do other things, you are on a side where you have a disadvantage. So you need to enable that idea to flourish. I think you should tie up with faculty members. I'm sure Abhijit has been very quiet, but you should tie up with some smart, intelligent faculty members and enable that idea and have an agreement in place which protects your patent. Do not publish. Academics don't do that. Startups and others, we probably worked for 10 years without publishing. But initially I published 40 papers. I probably worked more than 80 papers, but I didn't publish a single paper in the last 3 years. So you have to give up on some things to get something. So you have to find your idea, you believe in that idea, you find a partner, you enable that idea with a CDA, MOU in place where your idea is protected, you get the money if that idea succeeds, so you don't lose it. So think out of the box.
See, as he said, you have to compromise on something, and mind you, founders are never paid, okay?
Exactly.
Yes, I also had to survive on my reserves for long, till I myself could fend and pay myself. So, please do not expect anybody to treat a founder with a ready-made cake given to you. Yeah, that's the fate of a founder.
We all face that. I wanted to start a company when I was 22, 23. But as I said, I didn't have money, right? So you need to really earn your bread. And we all face that. Everybody in this world faces. We are not born rich. We are not born Ambanis. Okay? So you will end up these struggles. But as you said, patent your idea, and look for opportunities when you can make that decision. It took me 25 years to make that decision after my PhD, to really come out and start a company, right? So it's not just that you can start a company just because you have an idea. The things have to come together, and the right time comes, it's all destiny. I say it's destiny, okay?
So don't wait for 25 years like Manning. You patent your idea and get it going with a smart faculty member.
One last question, if I may.
Thank you very much.
One last question. So we were...
Maybe offline, Anushka maybe. Anushka, will you permit? Okay, please
Very quick question. I'll keep it short.
Very short.
We were talking about this international grants and collaborations. So for these microphysiological systems or interdisciplinary sciences, what ends up quite happening is you have expertise in one and another person is contributing, as you said, complementarity. So when you are collaborating with someone, how do you draw boundaries for a research proposal? You say a lab, this is my contribution, this is your lab's contribution. This is usually not very talked while a collaboration is going on, because this is all very goody and you say, okay, let's collaborate, let's get this done. But as a PI or as a student, you always have this lingering thought that when you eventually publish, who gets the first author? Sorry? I'm sorry. So my question is, where do you draw boundaries?
I understand the worry behind. So all these conflicts arise if this is not well thought out when you are framing the project. So when you're framing the project, this is my expertise and this is your other partner's expertise, and you clearly define what is that you're going to do together for the project that you're proposing. So when that clarity is there from the beginning, there's no conflict, and clearly at the end, based on the contribution, you will have a clear idea as to who's going to take the credit, be it in publication or in the patents that you're going to apply, right? So this has to be, many times we just skip these discussions, but then it has to be done in the beginning. It's better off. Yeah, and sometimes in some cases you can't clearly define it, but as the project progresses, depending on the progress that you are making, you will be able to make these decisions. So I think that's where
later problem.
We can discuss more.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you all for being so patient, and thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for that wonderful discussion.